All right. Hi, guys. This is Thunder E from Borderwork, and welcome to our Hangout review of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is Marvel's latest movie, and it's in the Marvel space, but is one that, of course, is not common to most of us out there. Even I myself didn't know. I haven't read much of the Guardians of the Galaxy comic book, but Marvel has done a very good job in marketing this movie, pushing it out there, and it looked like a lot of fun. So let's jump right in now. In our usual format with our reviews, we start off with about 5 minutes of non-spoiler stuff, and then afterwards we jump into spoilers. So from the 5 minute mark, you're gonna hear spoilers. So if you don't want to hear it, you should stop at 5 minutes, and then you'll be good. So what did I think about the movie? This movie was fun. It was a fun movie from beginning to end. The jokes were funny. Rocket Raccoon was very funny. I think he will steal the show for a lot of people just because a talking raccoon who is quick witted, who can spit out lines pretty well, and I think he just did a really good job. The whole cast, I think, came out pretty well for all characters. So now the movie stars, just run through the cast list: Chris Pratt as Peter Quill or Star Lord, as you see in the trailers. Also Zoe Saldana as Gamora, who is the daughter of Thanos. Dave Bautista as Drax. Now Vin Diesel voices Groot, and all he says is "I am Groot," and he says it in different tones, different inflections, and you kind of get the idea of what he's saying. And of course, Bradley Cooper is Rocket Raccoon in there. So you've got this whole mix of characters we don't know about, we've never heard before as a general public, and we're not sure what this is. And the vibe of this movie pretty much is a blend of, and many people have said it's really a blend of Star Wars and Star Trek together. At once, so you've got that good blend. Now the characters, we're fairly fleshed out. Chris Pratt's character, Peter Quill, is fully fleshed out as a character. I think as a character, you get to understand and know his story and why and all that fun stuff. Some of the other characters, not so much, throughout the movie, but you do get to enjoy and like them just because of the way the chemistry works with all these characters, especially with Groot and Rocket Raccoon. Even though they're not, physically there, you still get to get a full understanding of these characters and say, okay, like I'm going to root for them and things like that. So I like that aspect of it. The action was great. I actually saw the movie in 3D, and it actually looked pretty good. For once, I've actually watched a lot of these movies in 3D, but I just don't even mention it just because it's nothing fantastic. But this actually looked pretty good in 3D, and it looks like something that, yeah, definitely, if you want to check out in 3D, go ahead. If not, it's still fine. But 3D, at least you got that effect that you're watching a 3D movie from this altogether. Now, the storyline basically is, there's this orb that he finds at the very beginning of the movie, and it's basically keeping it away from the hands of Ronan the Destroyer. Now, Ronan is one of those villains that it's kind of hard to place. I mean, the guy who plays Ronan, Lee Pace, does a very good job as Ronan, but he's a character that really is only second fiddle. He's second to Thanos. We all know Thanos has his web around the whole Marvel universe in some form or fashion, and we just want to see Thanos. So to a certain degree, your run is kind of left like stuck as that second or backup girlfriend type thing, so to speak, and just in the way his relation is in this movie. Though he does a good job, but he's that villain that really, it's plays second fiddle, so to speak. So I think you find him as a good villain, but especially for a starter franchise, which is great, and is good that some elements of Thanos that the T is teased throughout this whole movie. But he still does a good job there. Action scenes are very good. Again, it's mixed with like fun and and some intense action at the same time. I think what James Gunn did. That James Gunn is the writer and director of this movie. He did a good job in pacing it, so you really got a good feel of where the movie was going, how the tone went from serious to action, and he also infused a lot of music. So you can tell his love for 80s music, some 80s pop, 70s pop music in there, even some Jackson 5 in there too. So he infused a lot of music into this movie, and that helped in transitioning like different things in different scenes that felt like they were maybe a little bit too serious, or maybe a little bit too violent altogether. So I like that approach there. And now the movie isn't perfect. It's still a very good movie. There's still some parts of the movie where you felt like some of the characters weren't fully fleshed out or why, especially since Peter Quill gets, I guess he gets a good treatment because he is the main character here. Star-Lord is still the main character out of everyone in within the Guardians of the Galaxy. But some characters like Drax, for instance, I felt that they should have been more out of Drax in a certain way, especially because he talks about how his family was killed. That's the first thing he says. So you wanted to get more out of him, but you really didn't. Altogether, Groot, of course, you really can't, just because he says "I am Groot" as his the only thing he says, and also. What do you call it again? Rocket Raccoon is just yabbing his mouth left and right throughout this whole movie altogether. So, I mean, in total, I think this was a good Marvel movie that everyone would definitely enjoy. Just because it's fun. There's a lot of action. Doesn't take itself too serious, but serious enough that it fits in the Marvel universe. So even though this movie takes place in space, like literally, this movie does what Green Lantern failed to do. And it takes place in space. It's got all these different places, locations, different types of villains, different characters you meet, but it still feels very grounded, that you can understand, okay, something's going to happen here. This world, might face peril, and there's this big bad guy, coming. And it still puts things in good perspective. So at least you get to understand and follow the flow in this movie. The scene, there's a breakout scene where before the breakout scene from prison, which is one of the scenes that I think a few people have seen with the 17-minute preview. But there's a scene before that where Rocket is chasing Star-Lord. They all meet for the first time. Star-Lord, Rocket Raccoon, Gamora, as well as Groot, and it's a really fun action sequence. Well done. Keeps everything intense. Keeps everything like just moving forward. And I think that's probably one of the best scenes I enjoyed in the movie. The Nova Corps is also in this movie. The Nova Corps to me is quite useless, and we'll get to that in the non-spoiler section. Nova Corps is like Green Lantern Corps, so they're supposed to be like this Peace Corps, this police force of the galaxy, and they really have they're useless. They're just pretty bad as far as I'm concerned. They just don't do anything useful in my mindset, but they still do a serviceable job there altogether. Now, we have a couple of questions here. Lou Rod asks, did I watch it in 3D? Yes, I did watch it in 3D. It was good in 3D. It really you actually felt that, especially the fight sequences and some of the battle sequences really popped out in 3D. So I'll mention that, yeah, you can definitely see it in 3D if you want to, but you can skip also. I think it still worked well either way. He also asked, is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it. It's a very good movie. It's fun. It's something you can, go watch with friends, even friends who don't necessarily like sci-fi or sci-fi action movies, just because there's a lot of humor in this movie. So it's a lot to laugh at, a lot of funny jokes that don't get tiring, and also, they don't feel like they're just trying to write things down to make you laugh, right? They just come off pretty funny altogether. Leroy also asked, is the credit scene at the very end, is there a credit scene at the very end, or is it the first few minutes of the credits? So the credit scene is at the very end of the movie, and I'll talk about that in the spoiler section. But the credit scene is at the very end of the movie. So to wrap up like the non-spoiler part of this review, Guardians of the Galaxy is a fun movie. I think you should definitely go see it. You will enjoy it because there's a lot of humor, good acting, great action in this movie, and also expands the Marvel universe altogether. One cool part I liked about it is the fact that they showed how Star-Lord basically, was taken from Earth, and that's at the very beginning of the movie, and you see his origins, and you can see how in my mind, you can see how they can connect eventually the other aspects of the Marvel universe, especially with the Avengers, into that whole aspect of with Guardians of the Galaxy, because we know Thanos is coming at some point altogether. So I do like that, and I think, yeah, you definitely would enjoy the movie. You can go see it in 3D, or you can see it without. Either way, I think will work out pretty well for you. If you want to cut your costs, then don't see it in 3D. But overall, I give the movie a thumbs up. Go watch. It's fun. Now to the spoiler parts of this review. Well, one of the things that you will see early on is you will see Thanos. Thanos is shown. He is sitting down, and remember how in the Avengers movie when Loki went to see Thanos, we only saw a glimpse of him from behind on his chair up. He actually turns around and he addresses Ronan the Accuser. You see Thanos. You can hear the voice escapes me. The voice of Thanos. Let me see that quickly here. I know it's a famous actor. For some reason, I can't remember his name. He was just cast. If anyone remembers, please let me know. But you hear Thanos. You can hear the voice. You can see him in his full gear, sitting down, and at least you get a good look at Thanos and at what Marvel is going to bring when Thanos eventually arrives, probably in Avengers 3. So I don't think they're going to change the design of Thanos. He pretty much looks like the character you find in the comic book. So you definitely see Thanos in the movie, which is pretty cool, and that's also very nice. There are some parts, in the plot lines that can be a little loose, just because of like. I'll call it silly writing, but because there's enough humor to cover all of that, that really covers it altogether. You find out Star Lord isn't just human. Yes, thank you very much, Just Brolin. Thank you, Leroy. It's Just Brolin is Thanos. So there's some parts in the movie where um, Star-Lord does certain things that are a little bit more than a human being should do, and then later on he finds out that he's half human, half something else. And this was brought up to me by I was having a discussion with some gadget guy, and he's like, and we talked about how he just didn't even think about asking what the other half of him was. He just kind of like brushed that off altogether and moved on. I guess I understand they want to save that for the sequel, but at least to show some concern in there with all that. And then when you go to the spoiler scenes at the end of the movie, um, there's a quick reel at the very beginning while the movie ends where you see Groot dancing to Jackson 5, and then he pauses. But Groot is in a pot plant this time. I'm just gonna put it that way. Basically he's a plant, so he's in a pot. And you see it when you watch the movie, and he's dancing. It's kind of funny and cute. And then Drax is sitting next to him. But the main spoiler at the end of the movie has nothing to do with this movie itself, particularly. So we know the collectors in this movie, played by Benicio del Toro, and the collector's lab has been smashed and everything has been destroyed. So all his collections are kind of out, and he's sitting down holding his cup of some drink, and he's drinking it, and he's just pondering on why everything's been just destroyed. And a dog in a space suit walks up and licks his face. Now, since he's a collector, he basically collected one of the many pets that we shot into space during the 60s when man was testing out space flight for the first time. So that dog runs up, licks his face, and then a character says something like, quit moping there, and it pans to the right and you see it's Howard the Duck. Yes, Howard the Duck, the Marvel character that's kind of like designed to look like Daffy Duck, but he is a Marvel character, and since it's owned by Disney, so they figured the best place to put Howard the Duck is probably as one of the collections from the collector. If you don't know anything about Howard the Duck, definitely go check it out. It's interesting, and probably the only place Disney could fit Howard the Duck into this universe or into this new, at least modern time frame, so to speak. But he's sipping a drink there with him, and it just kind of ends there. So that's the end credit scenes. I mean, overall, this movie, like I said, it's still a great, fun movie to watch altogether. You definitely will see, Thanos. You will see how he looks like. You hear how Josh Brolin sounds as Thanos. You're also going to see more of the Nova Corps, although, like I said, they are quite useless as a group. They don't know, to me, they don't do anything. I mean, the Nova Corps is supposed to be this big corps that, does a lot to save the universe. And in this movie, they couldn't help them. They couldn't even save themselves, so to speak. So, um, to me, I think the Nova Corps was just a waste in this movie. But overall, the movie, I think, does a very good job, and definitely go see it. So, guys, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the movie when you go check it out this weekend. Your thoughts on the different characters from Gamora, Star-Lord, Groot, Rocket Raccoon, and Drax, and even some of the side characters, as well as Ronan the Accuser. Let me know your thoughts. Again, don't forget to like this video, share this video, and favorite this video. And also do subscribe to the channel, top right hand corner of your screen or down in the description below. But this is Thunder E saying thank you and always enjoy your entertainment.